Okay, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to start in French for the people who are listening this series of conference. Notre école, est en collaboration avec les groupes de travail sur le colonialisme de développement, est très heureux de réaliser cette série qui s'appelle Être un leader écoféministe et décolonisatrice. Et cette série est organisée dans le cadre du cours Ecofeminism par moi. On met en lumière des leaders de l'Amérique latine et de l'Afrique qui luttent pour la justice socio-environnementale. On va explorer des sujets comme la décolonisation, la protection de l'eau, la résistance à l'exploitation minière et la conservation. Aujourd'hui, cette conférence va être orientée par la professeure Nawel Hamidi, elle est professeure à l'école de leadership, écologie et équité de l'Université Saint-Paul. Il est avocat et sociologue et sa recherche se concentre particulièrement sur les études comparatives du colonialisme et leurs effets sur les sociétés post-indépendance et autochtones. Comme j'avais dit, aujourd'hui, la séance va se réaliser en anglais. Donc, we are really happy to have you here in this series that is being an ecofeminist and decolonial leader. It's a part of the one course into ecofeminism, and we are going to listen leaders and women leaders from Latin America and Africa that are fighting for socio-environmental justice and focusing on subjects like decolonization, water protection, and conservation. And today, this conference will be led by Dr. Nawel Hamidi. She's professor at the School of Leadership, Ecology, and Equity. And she's lawyer and a sociologist. I'm going to let she present himself and present our guest for today, Sara Inés Lara. But before we are going to make the acknowledgement, the territorial acknowledgement, I let Gabriel do this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Welcome. I'll be sharing it in French and English, so welcome. We would like to acknowledge that St. Paul University is located on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe people. We would like to honor the Anishinaabe, the first people of the lands and the waters of the Kichisibi, from time immemorial. We acknowledge that the site of the city of Ottawa serves as the home of the Anishinaabe, a place for spiritual ceremonies, cultural gatherings, and exchanges among First People. Today, the spirit of peace and friendship is the foundation of relationships among Indigenous peoples and non-Indigenous people from across the globe. En français, bienvenue. Nous aimerions reconnaître que l'Université Saint-Paul est située sur le territoire ancestral des Anishinaabe, lequel n'a jamais été cédé. Nous souhaitons honorer les Anishinaabe, les premiers peuples des terres et des eaux qui traversent la vallée de la Kichisibi depuis les temps immémoriaux. Nous reconnaissons que le site de la ville d'Ottawa sert de résidence pour les Anishinaabe, de lieu de cérémonie spirituelle, de rassemblement culturel et d'échange entre les premiers peuples. Aujourd'hui, ce même esprit de paix et d'amitié façonne les relations entre les peuples autochtones et non autochtones de tous les horizons.
Merci, Gabrielle. Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for this. And thank you, David, for putting all together this series of being a leader. It's amazing. We are having this honor to meet with Sara Inés Lara today. Welcome. So I will do a short introduction of your background, but of course, this doesn't prevent you from introducing yourself as well and letting us know a little bit more about your work and also maybe your positionality and your family story, if you wish to do so. But just before, let me introduce you a little bit more formally. So Sara found in nature an incredible healing to her wounds and used it as a therapeutic tool to recover from childhood trauma. In 2003, following her passion for nature and wildlife conservation, she became executive director of Fundación ProAves, a leading conservation organization in Colombia. Under her leadership, the organization established and managed 17 nature reserves to serve endangered species. In 2004, Sara combined her love for nature with her drive to empower women and started the initiative Women for Conservation. This program quickly spread to communities neighboring ProAves nature reserves, where local women put together their knowledge about the importance of safeguarding their nature, the nature and the natural environments are surrounding them. With this knowledge, they were motivated to develop projects that reduce deforestation, such as producing eco-friendly artisan products and reducing their usage of wood fuel stoves. So this is a very broad introduction of yourself. I'm sure you can tell us a little bit more about your story. So I would invite you perhaps to meet a little bit deeper with you. So can you tell us? Yes, thank you.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here with you, sharing about my experience as an individual, as a woman, and somebody who cares deeply about the environment and our mother nature. Right, let me begin with sharing with you where I come from. I come from a small town called Cajibío, Cauca, in Cauca. This is located in the Colombian Andes, in a place that is considered one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. Colombia is well known for being on the top of the list and have the majority of species of birds that occupies the first place in the world, and also for amphibians and flora. So at the same time, having a really beautiful biodiversity, the threats are huge. Growing up in this small town, that I would like to share a picture in my presentation, if I may, for you to have an idea of what I looked like when I was growing up. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes.
That's me growing up, and that's the town that I mentioned. So it was very basic. We had enough resources with my family and my father and mother and my two siblings. Unfortunately, growing up, I was subjected to sexual abuse by my own father. It was very difficult to endure and see, and it was over 10 years of these circumstances, and I also had to suffer, unfortunately, abortions. It took me a long time, to be honest with you, to find a place where I felt that I belong, that I fit, and also to develop an ability to connect with other people. Unfortunately, this trauma is spread all around the world, and many women, too many women suffer of these, kids and also men, and it was very little spoken about. In my journey of healing, I made the decision to share my story and to be able to hopefully encourage other women to use something that is so painful and negative for something good. Growing up, my mother tried her best to help us, and she also suffered a lot of abuse. Nevertheless, she planted in me and my siblings the love and care for other women and other children that were suffering similar situations. Unfortunately, she passed away at a very young age, just 42 years old, leaving us lonely, with very little resources. And I'm the oldest of the three, and we managed to finish education, and with the support of some of the family members, we were able to finish a basic education and also to go into university. I am the only one who graduated from university, and I help my other siblings to continue with the high school. This is my mom. She was a social worker who loved to be in the communities, especially the rural communities. As you saw in the photos, there were not many resources, but whatever we had, she made sure that she shared with them. She took us to meet the people and meet the women that she wanted to help. And I think that is what sparked in my heart the love and desire to help other women. What I did through the years is trying to find this healing. And it was when I purposely started to spend time in nature, to learn from her and also see that nature was suffering, and especially some species of birds in my country were suffering of abuse, their habitat was being destroyed, and I related to that. So that's how I decided to continue to spend time with her. I have an indigenous descendant from my grandfather, and I think that having that in my blood had helped me to connect so deeply with her and my calling, and helped me to heal what I wasn't able to heal with psychologists, psychiatrics, and so forth, and the therapies. So that is about me, how I was brought up, and the family dynamics that were very influential in my development as an adult, as a woman right now.
Wow. That's a very strong story, and we can see that you have walked the path of courage and resilience. So, and that has inspired a lot of your work. So, thank you for sharing this with us. I'm sure it's not very easy to be discussing that, but at the same time, it really positions you in your work and your values as well. So thank you so much for sharing this story with us. As a second question, if you agree, we will move to a second question. I'd like you, like maybe if you can take us in this journey, which has led you to work in the field of conservation. So how did that started, and how, you said you went to university, you got a degree, but I imagine that you had this seed within you. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came up with working where you are at now?
Yes, so I knew in early ages that my only way out was to have access to education. To be able to train myself in some skills was the only thing that was going to get me out of this dynamic of abuse in my family. And I pursued that. I graduated as a civil engineer. I paid for my own studies. I worked as an engineer for a couple of years in projects in Colombia, and also I had the opportunity to study English in the UK. That helped me to advance on my professional life. But it was when I came back to Colombia and I saw the need to protect nature, and already this connection and calling that I started to follow, when I decided to dedicate myself to help women and to help nature. When we were working in projects with ProAves as executive director, I was quickly aware that there weren't opportunities designed or created for women. So we started to incorporate it in all of the projects, the opportunities for them to be involved. Since the past that I had allowed me to connect with her at a very different level. So if we want to address really the gender balance and equality that we really all want to see more and more, we need to go back and understand the constraints and the difficulties that women, especially in rural areas or disadvantaged locations, have. Many of them suffer of abuse, financial abuse, all kinds of abuse. And if we're not open to talk about our reality and step back and understand what they can do, it's going to be very, very difficult. Difficult for them, but also difficult to be able to make an impact. So I purposely designed these type of projects, and it was a really, really welcome talking about family planning. We were talking about basic education. Many of them haven't even finished their primary elementary education. You start from there, and also building trust and creating a support group. because as a community that we all need, and we all need to be part of something bigger and feel where we belong and where we fit. Because if you don't know that, and also you are broken inside, the chances that you're going to be a leader who can help others, coming from a place of love and coming from a place where you accept yourself, is going to be really difficult. So I've been learning how to improve as a leader. I understand that we need to seek resources, and many times I found for the 20 years that I've been doing this and talking about women and nature, that interconnection, found that resources were very limited. Not many people wanted to invest and create these opportunities. So I think now we have done a really good job in opening up more roads and bringing the subject to important platforms, and also creating these new leaders that are coming from the rural areas or indigenous backgrounds that are able to come and speak. So being the director of ProAves allowed me to do this, and I established Women for Conservation, which empower me as already a director to create these projects, because as I say, it was complicated and difficult. So we've been talking about these subjects openly. I've been sharing about my story to motivate and encourage others, and also talking at different levels with universities, with institutions, trying to bring these concepts to a very, very elemental level in the ground, where the people are, and they are in this place of high biodiversity, or many of them, without knowing, are causing some of the threats that are affecting the species, and without having opportunities to do some things in a different way. So that's how I've been purposely working to create these projects, and also very important, giving a space for them to talk and share their stories, their successes, and their experiences, and also the lessons learned.
That's very important. And so you have created, in a way, a form of environmental leadership, but you are also starting by letting people tell their story and see how the destruction of environment, as well as at the same time the annihilation of human condition, is related. So based on your work and your experience so far, how would you define this environmental leadership that has emerged from the work of women in your organization, but also in the milieu? How would you define it or explain it to the people who are not necessarily related or connected to this form of very important leadership that is, in a way, very holistic as well?
Yeah, so I got some photos here that I would like to give you some faces to connect with these people. So how we became to invest in women and conservation leaders. So in my eyes, everybody is a leader in their own homes, in their own lives, or whatever institution they're working. We started to create, we created a grants for women researchers who wanted to come to these areas of higher biodiversity and starting to do their works. So we're heavily investing in them. And to me, it's wonderful to see how they just blossom. They come with an idea, they run with it, they have enough small funding, but they have the network, they have the platform to showcase their studies, and they're so passionate about. This is one example of a researcher doing her study in turtles, and she just managed to bring the young community, the women, and teach them very, very basic concepts of what they could do in their homes to help this species to survive and mitigate the threats. So the connection happened nearly instantly. The kids get engaged. and there's this beautiful positive energy around. That's one of the examples. And also other examples like these women who get engaged in family planning, where they want to pursue their education, but they don't have the resources, or they don't have access to it. And when you facilitate and partner with institutions in Colombia with Pro Familia, or like we're doing it in Sierra Leone, Nepal, Madagascar, Bolivia, and continue to grow, we partner with them and we're creating real change on the ground. Another story that I want to share is Ninfa Carianil, who she had a terrible tragedy that her husband passed away due to a lack of medication. That was during COVID. And the previous year, her son has drowned outside in the reserve. Her late husband was the forest ranger. But when she lost her husband and her son there, she begged us, me especially, to give her a chance and opportunity for her to become the forest ranger. And that's what we did. We believe in her. When the odds were against, received the training, and now she's the forest guard, and she even won the International Ranger Award 2 years ago. So there we are. This is a proof of how we can invest in them and see them become the best potential of them. And it hasn't stopped. It continues, and that is passed on to the children, to the families, and the community. Another great example that I just want to share with you is this is Chadis. She is the first trans Indigenous forest guard, which is huge for a country where this subject is not very much spoken about, and very few of them have the support and the network to feel that I want to share, I want to be in public spaces and talk about inclusion and how they can have a place and the role they can play. It was wonderful to see Chadis a couple of weeks ago talking in the ONU celebration in the Indigenous Day in the General Assembly and sharing her testimony. This is something amazing to celebrate. And now we're going to COP. She's becoming a spokesman about the trans Indigenous. And there we go, investing in individuals. The ripple effects is just go on and on and on. So these are 3 examples and some faces of many of the women and many of the kids that we are touching through a very simple model that we have developed over the years.
Wow, that's beautiful, beautiful stories as well. So just to make a very small precision, so Women for Conservation works in Africa and internationally, whereas ProAves is basically located in Colombia. Is it true? Is it this way? Yes?
That's right.
And so you also train women from all over the world, from different stories and background, and to become conservationists in their own environment and way of and place of life.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's how we're doing it.
And do you have to travel? Do you have to, you make them come to Colombia for the training? You go for the training? How?
So in Colombia, we are actually in November having a workshop. It's called a conservation circle. We have women coming from Latin America, from some of the projects that we are supporting, and the majority are here from Colombia, since we are here. And also we want to showcase this country. This is how we do it in this part of the world. In other areas like Nepal or Sierra Leone, we work through partners, empowering the partners who are doing the work on the ground. So mostly we're looking for a small group of people who are coming together, and they have fantastic ideas, but they're not supported by funders because they might be maybe look too small, or they don't have the trajectory, but they are ready to go and they have fantastic projects and people behind. So we're investing in them, where our resources and our support can make a big difference and a big impact.
That's very interesting. So can you, would you be able to share a little bit with us? Of course, these are amazing projects, and your work is done mainly locally and also internationally. What are the major, would say, challenges or obstacles you may face in this work? We know that the global south, as well as in the north, are facing a lot of extractivist projects from mining companies, lumber companies, and so on and so on. So I'm wondering, are you facing certain specific challenges related to the conservation of nature and the environment?
Yes, there are several challenges, and unfortunately, being an environmentalist and advocate for nature sometimes can be very dangerous. I think Colombia occupies again one of the top positions, unfortunately, in this case, is for the number of environmentalists killed every year. ProAves, our organization, suffered one assassination of an amazing individual who was the first forest guard. So we had suffered of this terrible experience. That's one of the biggest challenge where in where we are right now is a huge competition between using the natural resources for exploitation, not giving nature a little bit of space for also to have preserved areas or intact areas where that we really need for water, for biodiversity, and that we depend on. So I think the huge pressure that are put on the natural resources that are still available is terrible. We really need to continue to work on a change of conscience in the sense that we can continue with using, abusing, and the mentality of more is better or bigger, because it's just not sustainable. So we've seen habitats gone within days, where you see that this is very important for a specific endemic species or the high biodiversity, or there are ACE sites, which is the Alliance for Zero Extinction, or there are KBA sites that are very key important biodiversity areas gone. So we need to continue to work with the governments, local governments, to create protected areas. In the example with ProAves, with the reserves that we established while we've been working with them really hard with the local government, is to declare these areas as a regional parks that can be protected in perpetuity. So far, we have declared 2 areas for 2 specific species, and this is a fantastic victory that we did it this year, working together. So we have to continue to work across all the sectors, government, individuals, and organizations, recognize even more the role of indigenous communities and the importance of what they do, continue to help them to be advocate without having the risk of being assassinated. And unfortunately, we've seen so many times. We have to invest with the communities, the minority communities. And I think the other countries can play this role, a role very important, where they have to stop reducing the use of natural resources and ask questions: where is it coming from, these materials, and start using less.
Thank you. You spoke about supporting the local indigenous communities. And I imagine that by working with different communities yourself, you realize that there is already some knowledges that emerge from those communities regarding conservation and protection of the land as well, and the environment. Do you have access to certain of those knowledge, for example, indigenous knowledge? How those knowledge contribute to the work you are doing so far?
I think it's for us, it's great the way that we do things, which is very different from the normal way of NGOs or organizations working. I've been in many meetings with them when they tell you that we are tired of organization coming to their territories to tell them how or what to do, or assuming for some reason that they don't know. And also sometimes they don't have the patience of the time to listen to what is conservation for them, what is a sustainable living means to them. And they already have it. They have it clear. They have many of them they've been doing in traditions in a certain ways. And just breaking that system where it is very top bottom approach, that has to change. Communities are tired in many cases that they don't get involved from the beginning, and that also has to change, and having the women and the young generation giving those spaces. So when you reframe the way to do it, I think is when it becomes participatory, and that ultimately we want them to lead the process and the projects even when the organizations or the support is gone, so becomes appropriated by them.
That's very important as well. Yes.
Important.
Through the work you're doing, you have a very important perspective, because you see what is going on locally, and you see also what's going on the international level, maybe in with the community you work in Africa, for example, and women's empowerment as well in those regions. Do you see any collaboration between those communities, or communication? We are, in this situation where we are in the global world, we are facing the challenges coming from a decisional process, which are globally taken into consideration, but at the same time, we have to act locally. So do you have strategies or way of acting and relating to those international communities, or even the communities of the global South? Is there any collaboration or communication even between their struggles?
I think it's changing, it's improving. More and more people see that some ways to implement projects in conservation has failed, and it's obvious the reasons why. It's still a lot more to do, to be honest. And sometimes I don't want to lose hope, but we have to act faster. We really have to listen to the people on the ground more and understand the dynamics, and also understand that if you have dysfunctional families, and if you have so much hurt and so much pain, so much violence to women who are in these homes, if the kids can have access to education, if this dynamic continue and we don't break stigmas, and we don't talk openly about issues that affect all of them, it's very hard to advance and get more results and have them engage when we're not touching what is needed to begin this path, this journey. So collaboration has, in my opinion, is happening, but too slow. And the nature is showing us with disasters, like just recently in Nashville in the US, something unprecedented. So we're just facing more and more terrible times, and nature is screaming and calling us. And how can we be so deaf and blind and not wanting to see, and continue to ignore the people on the ground, the indigenous people, and continue to not allocate enough resources to women and youth? So I think that's what we have to do, and do it faster and do it more efficiently. And the governments, many of them, they unfortunately are not perfect. I don't think there is a perfect government, but some of them are less enthusiastic or their priorities, and don't put the environment at the core as it should be, and the people.
Yes. Yes. And yes. Sometimes the pace is different between how sometimes government or even international institutions or corporation impose their pace while how people resist on the land and people resist locally. So yes, I imagine the struggle is very, very difficult and challenging. So it's even, such an honor at the same time to be hearing you discussing about this. And it shows also the courage that you need to have to continue this work on a daily basis, as many people, and especially local communities, are threatened in many ways when they do this work. So thank you so much for sharing about this important work. I think it would be great if we leave the space as well to the people who are with us today to have the chance to discuss with you, Sara, and learn a little bit more about you. So I will invite the public who is present with us. If you would like to ask a question to Sara, please, you can use the chat, or you can just open your camera and your mic to be able to discuss with our guest.
Well, Sara, do you listen to us? It's okay. You're listening. Okay. We have some question here, but the question will be made in French. I don't know. Well, if you make the translation, or I can do the translation, but we're going to listen.
Okay.
Or do you want to make the
in English? No, in French. Ok, merci beaucoup pour votre présentation. C'était super comme histoire à relater, et puis tout ce que vous faites comme travail sur terrain. C'est vraiment encourageant et puis c'est motivant. Surtout pour moi qui suis activiste depuis plus de 7 ans. Je travaille aussi.
Peut-être on fait la traduction pour que ce soit
Ah,
pas
ok,
trop long.
ok.
So Roliane said that she is very amazed by the work you have been doing, and also very touched by your story. She said that she's been herself an environmental activist for 7 years.
Ok, ça fait depuis plus de 7 ans que je travaille avec les communautés locales dans le secteur environnemental. J'accompagne surtout les femmes dans la position de prise de décision, et surtout dans certaines activités pour qu'elles puissent être prises en compte aussi. Alors, je ne sais pas si je peux continuer.
Oui. So, her organization is also working specifically with women and trying to empower the decision-making process made by them locally, which is isn't it in Congo, Roliane?
Oui, Congo.
It's in
Congo,
Congo.
Kinshasa.
In Congo, yeah.
Voilà. Alors, ça m'a vraiment beaucoup inspirée. Alors, ma question était de savoir, toutes les femmes avec qui vous travaillez, je parie que ce ne sont pas toutes les femmes autochtones. Alors, est-ce qu'elles ont une histoire particulière ou qui les a motivées de pouvoir intégrer le groupe pour travailler avec les autochtones, ou sinon elles sont passionnées juste à pouvoir aider ces femmes-là dans leur travail? Ça, c'était ma première question. J'ai une autre question.
Ok, je vais lui faire la première question, Roliane, si tu veux, ça va. So the first question, she would like to know what are the motivations that will lead women to integrate the organization or be trained to be working locally? Do they have all the same motivation as, for example, Indigenous women? So this is the first question, Roliane. Maybe
oui. The second question. Alors, ma deuxième question, c'était de savoir, ça partait dans le sens du travail. Comment vous arrivez à vous mettre en accord sur le travail avec les autochtones? Parce que, à ce que je sache, ils ont leurs principes, les autochtones ont leurs principes de base de travail, surtout sur des questions liées à la forêt. Et puis, nous, déjà, bon, des citadins ou sinon encore des gens qui vivent dans des milieux urbains, ils ont d'autres façons de penser. Et lorsque nous partons souvent travailler avec eux dans des forêts, on n'arrive pas de fois à s'attendre parce que de principes qui sont déjà établis au niveau urbain nous empêchent de fois à pouvoir bien s'entendre avec eux. Si j'évoque cette question-là, c'est surtout par rapport à ce qu'on appelle de bailleurs de fonds. De bailleurs de fonds ont souvent leur structure et puis des objectifs bien établis, pardon, quand vous partez sur le terrain, vous avez déjà des objectifs où vous devez travailler sur base de ça. Mais des fois, on se retrouve dans des terrains, je sais pas, je pense que vous avez déjà rencontré ces problèmes-là. Vous vous retrouvez dans un terrain où vous retrouvez d'autres situations. Il y a d'autres situations et que les priorités de bailleurs de fonds ne sont pas forcément les priorités que vous rencontrez sur le terrain. Alors, dans le cas où vous vous retrouvez dans ces milieux, vous vous retrouvez dans cette situation-là, comment vous arrivez à vous entendre pour pouvoir trouver une solution qui peut bénéficier à tout le monde?
So the second question, Sarah, I think it's a very practical one. Actually, Roliane is because she's working as well in a specific organization. She's asking, how do you reconcile knowledge that is coming from urban communities or even that would be preferred by sponsored compared to indigenous and local knowledges? How do you reconcile this? How do you make the sponsor aware of that, how much those local knowledge are actually valuable, important, and true to the work that you are doing? And how are you being supported by those sponsors or maybe not as well? So it's really this question of reconciling dominant knowledge with local or indigenous knowledge regarding conservation.
Right, very good questions. Thank you. To answer the first question, how the women respond through the approaches, each woman respond in very individual and different way. So what we have learned is that they respond from where they are at their lives regarding the issues, and how they can see conservation can be today in one way, but it can be changed or adapted in a short time, especially when we explain a bigger context of not only a regional or local level, but how the interconnection of the whole planet and one thing can affect the other thing. So it's been a wonderful experience to sit with the women and different ages and different backgrounds and learn and hear from them. What I think is one of the major lessons learned for me is offering a platform for them to exchange this knowledge or exchange opinions away and ways that they see things and how they can one enrich the other, because more of these opportunities are needed, and there were very fewer and fewer opportunities. So we are in a important window of opportunity to continue to push to include gender and include the conversations of how each individual can contribute to the protection of the resources wherever we are. So like Chadis, for instance, it wasn't easy, it was hard, and we're talking about in the last 12 months that she's been with us. It hasn't been long. For the first 5 months, to give you a concrete example, she was threatened to be killed several times by different groups. She also suffered of pushback from their own indigenous communities, the other communities. So it's not only from the external communities, but also from their own communities that can happen and suffer, and their punishment and depends of the groups. And she she had this strong calling. And I think when we listen to what is going to be your purpose in life, what is it that motivates you, what inspires you to continue, whatever it is, and if you are in the environmental or you feel that it's about the ecology and the women's and the human rights, I know that it could be hard, you can be threatened to be killed, it's going to be difficult, but if you have that in you, you're going to continue doing it. And like Chadis, it was scary and it was horrible and it was hard, but then she wasn't alone, and that's what it makes the change. When you're not alone, when you belong with some people that are helping you. So that is so important that I would like to communicate with you. This discussion is that how we're so important as an individual, but also as collectively, and the things that we can do together, and we need each other. Sorry, and now the second question. Could you please remind me?
Yes. So it's about this, I would say, a very concrete aspect of.
I remember now.
You remember? Okay.
Yeah, I remember. Thank you. It is also an education in both ways, because when you have supporters or you have people who care and they come with an idea of what is needed or what they want to support, we have to also teach them that maybe what they want to support or what they propose is not what they need in the field. And I had that push many, many times. And I have to unfortunately say, no, we can't have this great idea that in your mind looks great, and perhaps you're thinking because in another place worked. It doesn't mean that that's going to happen with a specific group of people. So I am considered a very tough person that I speak my mind, and that can get me in trouble, but it has to be done, because that is also part of, if I don't say no to something, and we very kindly and gentle educate them and explain, well, I prefer to lose the support also, or lose somebody who wants to get involved and not do the work that I know is going to fail, because, well, unfortunately happened in the past. I prefer that getting to something that's going to create a lot of more problems. And not only problems for the institution or whatever group you're representing, but the problems also within the communities, because it has a lot of impact. So it isn't easy, but the more that we educate,
So I think, oh.
She's back there, okay.
Oh, she's back.
Sorry, I think I lost internet. Back.
As long as you are back. Thank you. So you were saying that education, you were talking about this aspect of education. So you're educating also the sponsors. That's what I understand, what you were saying.
Yeah. And what we've been doing is, where it is possible, we invite them to come and spend time with the community. So that also get them closer together and narrows the breadth. It narrows makes them closer to one another, understand, and when they can sit with them and also have this discussion, and we are not in the middle, for us is a very important way to do it. So we partner with institutions or universities. We had several students that are doing their masters. They want to have a place where they can come and do their studies. We facilitate that. What we want to do a lot more is be a facilitator and a bridge, because the more we narrow that gap, I think we can understand each other much better.
Thank you. Thank you for those comprehensive answers. is there any other questions from the public for Sara?
Thank you for the questions.
Je vous informe que j'ai 3 prix que j'ai reçus au pays, le prix de femme leader en environnement, et puis de meilleure initiative de l'année, et puis l'autre prix, c'était le prix en tant que leader qui motive le jeune. Oui.
Wow.
So she wanted to share with you that she has been receiving 3 special prizes this year as a special women leader, as the best initiative in leadership, as well as leadership for the youth. So she said she wanted to share that with you, and I.
Wow, that's amazing.
Félicitations, Roliane, and wow, we are surrounded by amazing women. Is there any more questions for Sara? I'm sure it's a lot to take and to digest. Your work is fabulous, and I imagine it's not easy what you're doing on a daily basis, but at the same time so rich and so important. You must be learning a lot yourself as well. So you've been sharing opening spaces for women to tell their story and see how their condition is also very much related to what is happening around them. Like the condition of Mother Earth is related to the condition of human beings. And so if Mother Earth is not doing well, then exploitation, abuses, and so on will continue as well. And the question of not being alone, is there a dimension of your organization, a dimension of your work that supports women from being endangered? I mean, is there any, how do you address when a woman comes to you or discuss with you or is involved in a project with you and says that she's threatened, her life is threatened? Is there any specific approaches or strategies that your organization is handling as well, or it's something that is basically handled by the community?
It depends on the case. Unfortunately, in my position, I have to deal with maybe too many episodes where it's very difficult. Doing conservation work in Colombia, it is very complicated because, just to give you an example, we have the presence of different groups, terrorist groups, that is also the narco traffic, which is complicated. Is all across the country.
Yes,
that's 2 things that makes the protection, the conservation very intricate. Put it that way. We as an organization, we are helped by the national government. We have protection. We consider it has high priority to people of interest, where if we have a situation in the field, at the moment we have 27 nature reserves, so we had a lot of staff, mainly in the field, on the ground, and also doing a lot of work with communities. So we have to do our work very transparent, very open, very clear of why we really care. There are no hidden interests. We are not advocating for any private businesses or anything, but it's a pure and legitimate interest of helping nature, and also by default helping ourselves, because we need nature. When a situation happens, we have protocols. We have a network of organizations that we have to call immediately. That's something that we do when we receive a threat or when somebody is in danger. You have to react very quickly. There is steps that we have to do, and thankfully, thank God, we have since the assassination of our forest ranger Gonzalo, who shake not only ProAves to the core, but also the environmental groups in Colombia. He's passing has allowed us to receive a lot of support from the government and also from the police, the army, and so forth. By default, not only us will benefit of that, but the communities. So when there is a situation that it needs to be addressed, we have these great tools. As I say, it's something very difficult. I will have to choose careful the words that I want to communicate. I would love to I tell you the stories of a day-to-day what happens in the field, but that's can't do it really. But that's what we do. So when with the communities, when we get together, we have to ask for permission. We have to communicate the community leaders and all the leaders. They need to know why, the purpose of the meeting, and the reasons, and what is the outcome. And obviously that is they do all the due diligence to make sure that our group or these type of events don't have other intentions as gain intel, or it's very complicated. So being focused on what we're doing, sharing the knowledge about the species, sharing to people why it's important to mitigate the threats without pointing fingers at anybody, is how we can all come together to solve it, how we can listen to the knowledge of the locals and build together these initiatives is so important. So that's how we're doing it. So far it's been wonderful. We have a good stories of the yellow-eared parrot who recovered from the edge of extinction. There were only 81 individuals in the wild. And when we took the project, a scary situation, and up to today, IUCN has downlisted to vulnerable, and the more than 4,000 individuals flying across the Andes. And that's one example that we can do it. I'm so optimistic sometimes, but yes, we can do it. There are examples.
Well, you made our day, you made our week probably, and we're so optimistic as well. Personally, I would like to thank you for your time, the time you're spending with us today to tell us about the wonderful women you are as well, and the wonderful women you've met and you're working with, how this is very empowering, at the same time very encouraging in those difficult times where everyone is also trying to find a path to continue their struggles. So your presentation and your presence today is very inspiring and empowering at the same time. So I would like to thank you. Thank you as well for sharing your story. It moved me a lot. I'm sure everybody was moved as well by this story. But the most beautiful thing, I think, is how stronger you became through that. And we have a beautiful example of this today. So thank you so much. I hope we will have the chance to meet again and discuss further. I would like to thank David Hernandez for really introducing you to us. And perhaps, David, you can have the last word for this meeting. Thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noel, and thank you so much, Sara. I think that one of the important things that we have is about territory. I mean, how we live in some space and how we fight with this space. I think that your conference, Sara, it was very insightful on showing us this relationship with the earth, but also I appreciate so much this idea of how we can heal from all the violence and this relationship that we establish between personal violence against women, and violence against nature. I think that is very important reflection that we can have. And maybe let you last word, Sara, on, I mean, you told me about what are you going to make into the COP and this project from the Chiva that are coming from the coast to the center of Colombia. Maybe we can finish with that, with a very short idea on that. And thank you so much for being here.
Well, no, let me say that thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what we've done, but it's your time, and I'm very grateful. Please come and visit some of the places that are safe. We would love to have you there with us. So I would like to close. Yes, we had an exciting project where it's going to touch the people in the rural areas. And coming from the north of Colombia, we have a chiva, which is a Colombian typical transportation used to move all the local products from the rural areas to the city. It's very colorful. I wish I had a photo so I can show you right now, but it's colorful. It's gonna be taking taking environmental education activities to the people, invite them to reconnect with nature, especially birds, since we are for birds, our organization here, talking about the endangered species and the migratory species who come every year. So October, they live in Canada, which is getting cold. I'm really sorry. And it's gonna be a month of really cold weather. So the migratory birds are really wise, and they're heading down to Colombia. We saw one actually from Canada, and some of them going all the way to Bolivia. It's incredible. Just journey of migration is mind-blowing. The kids, the women, the community are coming to celebrate with a lot of music. We are Latinos, so we need very little excuses to celebrate and have a party, and give them, planting them this seed of love for nature and a love for themselves. If we do that, I think we are investing in a new generation, and everyone will have an opportunity to admire and appreciate. Forget about the pain and the suffering for a minute and see the beautiful colors and everything that creation has for us, and enjoy it. And become a leader, which to me means to be a servant, serve people, serve others, and to help them to be the best. Thank you so much.
You are a true transformative leader, Sara. Thank you. Thank you so much. Amazing. So we're gonna end our meeting today. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. And again, thank you so much, Sara Inés Lara, for being with us today and inspiring us from your work and your experience and your story. So I wish you a beautiful end of the week, everyone. And yeah, maybe an opportunity to connect as well with nature. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.